I don't know how to get. Okay.
Okay, welcome everybody to our September edition of the virtual book discussion. And today we are looking at Anita de Monte Laughs Last by Xochitl Gonzalez. I looked up how to pronounce her name because I didn't want to murder it. Xochitl Gonzalez.
No, can you hear properly?
Pardon?
Yeah. No, sorry, I'm talking to Addie.
Okay, good, good, good. So, welcome everybody. Xochitl Gonzalez, this is her second book. Her first one was Olga Dies Dreaming, which I have not yet read, but I remember reading a lot of really good reviews about. And so, I don't know, should we just jump into it? That's usually what we do. Just jump into it and see what did you guys think?
Ooh.
I loved it. I liked it very much. I really, really did. I got into it from the beginning, and I thought it was just very well done. The parallel between the two, the two artists, the women, and the parallel between their abusive boyfriend, so to speak, and I just thought it was very well done, and it was close in time. Like it was like maybe 15 years apart, not like 1500. I found that I've never had that before where two parallel lives are so close together, within 15 years. And I just thought it made very good statements about immigrants, maybe, in the art world. I learned a lot about the art world, if that's the true art world, which I thought it was. And of course, the abuse of men, controlling men, which we hear about so much as well. And I just thought it was a very good book and very well written. I would recommend it to people. It kept my interest, and that's how I feel. I don't know how anybody else feels.
Would you
Well,
repeat the title?
it's called Anita de Monte
Pardon?
Laughs Last.
Laugh last. Do you have it
Laughs?
on audio?
I'll have a look. I'll have a
Yes.
look.
If you have it, then you send it to her.
Of course, will do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Carol,
Did you
Roseanne,
girls like it?
what did you think?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Okay, what did I think? Neat. It's delicious. Weird. Couldn't
Yeah.
put it down. Good historical fiction about the art world and artists. I thought it's about love, betrayal, even racism in the art world. And it was a very interesting. One of the themes I thought were, which artists are going to be remembered next. It talked about minimalism in art, and and John Temple, the professor, talked about Raquel at one point about why he liked this art, and he said that at each era, an artist was they decide, one is the portraiture, then abstract expressionism and impressionism. All these people were talking about their art was really their psychology, their lives. And he says he was born in the 1960s, which I remember there was chaos. Kennedy was assassinated, and Martin Luther and Kent State, and John Temple says he saw these beams or bars, and he thought it was real, and he felt to finally he was calm. He didn't have to think about society and about what's happening in the world, and he looked at these that thought that, oh, they're just blocks. Well, to make these blocks, you had to have physics. You had to do it in a way, it was very interesting book. Next, about oracles and witches. I thought it was really an interesting addition to this Anita, she comes around, and what happened with Jack? Well, did he have a nervous breakdown? Was he psychotic? Would I asked some questions about the book? Maybe you can think about what. Now he was in a rage, but he loved her, and in a rage he was jealous, and and I wonder, what if a guy would he have killed again? Another question is, I wondered about significance about the fact where Nick cut her cut what's her name, Raquel's, but
Hair.
he botched it. He cut her hair and he botched it, and I mean, what was the significance about this haircut? Did he want her? I'm wondering, what did he need her anyway? It was so many things to think about. Yes, very, very interesting. And I thought the facts about artists and the art, and anyway, and there were some nice quotes. I'll let somebody to talk again more and more about this book that I was thinking about it. Only thing to me, there was too much the word fuck in that
Oh
book.
yeah.
I don't mind that word, but too much. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, your turn, somebody.
Okay, Roseanne, what did you think?
Fuck, I hated it.
Oh.
Oh my God.
Good old
Oh my-
Roseanne. Always giving us a different perspective.
Yeah,
Great.
well, I wish I spoke Spanish. I thought that was disgusting that they had a lot of Spanish in there, and I would have loved to know, but beyond that, where I'm looking up, calling a friend who speaks Spanish to me to translate so I could get what they're talking about. The language, it was too, the supernatural, it was so, ugh, it was not my thing, but it doesn't matter. It was okay. It added a little bit of spice to it. But the part that really threw me was number one, the fact that I've just had a senior moment. The fact that, just a second, I was just, anyway, whatever. The point is that the language, I didn't understand the radio language. I didn't understand the names of the people who were talking about. She kept talking. She's young, so it wasn't made for my age group. That's for sure. For me, and that's me. I like to understand what I'm reading, and at least have some idea of what they're talking about. I found that the part that was really weird, and I couldn't understand how she could be so famous, this writer, and so is that the fact that she wrote in that they didn't know that he murdered his wife in all the courses that she took, and all these kids do all this stuff on the. I mean, I went to school when I was older. I know you have to go to the library, you have to check things out. There's no way that they didn't know that she murdered her. I mean, that was so stupid.
That's a good
I mean, that
point,
was
actually. That's a good point.
I mean,
But-
I found that ignorant, and I found these are supposed to be brilliant people from Brown University, and they're really walked around. And she kept on saying how they didn't know, and they didn't know, and the professors didn't bother telling. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this is it. It got me so hard to read that I was with a friend at the emergency yesterday for 7 hours. I was really trying to read the last 25, 50 pages, whatever. I stayed up all night to read it and didn't get any better. And I found with the bat things, she was attacking the girlfriends and that thing. It was just, to be honest with you, I felt like I was a child reading a child's book, like the Black Beauty with all the, I don't know. It was
What happened to Black Beauty?
not good. It wasn't good. I mean, just saying, we think of Black
Roseanne.
Beauty and Snow White as, I read it in the original because I have the huge book. It wasn't so Snow White, but I'm just saying it was gross and gory, and I don't understand why. It was just put in. Oh, let's put her in. Let's fly the bat in. Oh, she made her in a tuba tree or something or whatever. But it's the part that's really really beyond me is the lingo was dopey. I don't. I mean, I didn't care about the word fuck. That's a word at least I understood. But the word they used vocabulary I am not familiar with. I didn't understand the expressions and the people they were talking about. The characters were very interesting. I think there were too many. I think there were just too many characters, and I got confused between. I didn't know who was who and what was what, um, and Nick and Jack. These are in the artistic world, including actors and actresses, and it's a competition. It is. That's the way it is. I mean, they're narcissistic. They don't mean to be, but they are. This is
You want
this
my
is
jacket? No.
it's a life work. It's you sit down and write a book, or you create an art. It takes hours and feelings and everything. So you're starving for people to like it, and so they're not. It's like you can be crazy. It at a certain level. At when you get the higher level and when you see the competition, it must be very very difficult when people are not telling you how wonderful you are and it's hard. So when people break, as you see actors who are on drugs and painters who are on drugs, they don't do it because they're having a good life.
Mm.
But I mean, the most important part is that I really was not made for my lingo, my. I just was disappointed. There was no glossary. Like I didn't know what
You
the
could
words meant.
go.
I didn't know who the people were. I would have liked to have Livy,
Yeah,
but
you could go now.
anyway. But that's my idea.
Okay. So it's interesting though that you say that it's like the language and the expressions you didn't understand and that's why you didn't like it. And I mean, I think this tends towards sort of your preferred kind of books
Yeah,
that you do enjoy because you
that's
feel
right.
the same way, but a lot of people don't feel the
That's
same
right.
way. With books like we read Horse, right? So Horse takes place during the Civil War. Well, we didn't live in the Civil War. We don't know about that, but like we follow that story and those realities as they're told. It's different. It's a different experience trying to follow this kind of historical fiction when it's so recent. So even
That's
though
right.
like the things that they're referencing, even if you don't understand it necessarily, I think a lot of the times with older or historical fiction that takes place longer ago, we're more prone to then look things up, and maybe we're not quite so prone to do that
We're also
with
aware.
something a little bit more recent.
That's
And we
what.
think,
Yeah.
and one of the things that I found really interesting about this book, so I also really enjoyed it, um, was that it's told in these two timelines that are really close together. It's also inspired by true events. So there was a Cuban American artist called Ana
Very
Mendieta,
similar.
who that she's in the dedication of the book. So it says for Ana, um, in memory of Ana and all the women who endured solitude, never knowing the rest of us were out there, is her first dedication at the beginning of the book. And Ana Mendieta was a Cuban American artist who, quote, fell, unquote, out of a 34 floor window. She was married to a minimalist sculptor. He was acquitted by judge. And there was this similar sort of outcry again. The neighbors had heard arguing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
There you
Um,
go.
so this is one thing to take note of with the storyline of the book.
It would have been nice if
Another,
they had a reference to that.
uh,
Would at the
again,
end maybe.
but again, there's like the sort of the extra legwork, maybe a little bit. That's what I'm here for.
Where my jacket is.
And there's also like the big part of the conversation I
Look,
found for this
it's
book
unbelievable for
is whether or
yourself.
not, in terms of like
Sure you
the
can.
truth, what
No.
happened.
Who is doing? I can't hear you.
Sorry, it's Addie talking a little bit. But the other thing is that with the opening quote to the book it's from an art history textbook, right? Do you guys remember this? It's why indeed. So this is a quote by from a book called a textbook, a textbook called The History of Art, Volume 2 by Anthony F. Jansen. And it's Why Indeed Should One Not Include Artists Who Embody Very Different Sensibilities from that of the European and the Mainstream. There is, in principle, no reason to exclude them whatsoever. However, I have decided to limit this edition to Western art. I have taken a stand about what art I think is most significant that not all readers will agree with, since it favors universality over ethnocentricity, is what this the author of this textbook said. So that's an interesting thing to keep in mind as well. Again, this idea that the dominant voice, which has predominantly been white, European, and male, and that is universal as opposed to its own kind of ethnocentric sort of focus. In an interview, Xochitl Gonzalez said it's really interesting also to note that the title of this textbook was History of Art. It wasn't a history of Western art either. So throughout the story, through both our timelines with Anita and Jack, as well as our timeline with Raquel and Nick, then we have this question of what voices should be heard, what focus should be placed where. Now, as to the question with John, the professor's focus on Jack's work and no mention at all of the trial, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. One of his things that he talks about with minimalism and with Jack's work in particular is how there should be no biographical background. That's unimportant. And that comes up later in the book too, when finally Raquel confronts him after finding out about Anita de Monte. And also keeping in mind that, with Anita's sort of second, third, et cetera, death, when all of her work has been essentially erased, right? It's been bought up by Jack and Tilly and their kind of coterie of people. So it's not being shown. It's not being because this dominant voice, the power dynamics have made it such that to disseminate this in the sort of more public realm of art discourse has been, it slowly gets moved to the side, to the side, to the side. And another thing too is again thinking about the news cycles. Like she says that after the trial with Jack, it was replaced by some other stockbroker who killed his wife on a park bench. And this guy was a lot more like physically attractive, and that took over the news cycle then for a while. And it's just the short memory of the public and of the tabloids, I guess. I thought it was an interesting combination of history and character development. And like it had this element of obviously magical realism, which is sort of integral to a lot of Latin American sort of culture. And almost horror as well, with the like it revisits these ideas of blood and the body. And that's an interesting thing too, I found with the differences between Jack's work and Anita's work as artists, as visual artists, in that she was very much about the organic and the body, which he, of course, disparagingly referred to as body work, or body art. And meanwhile, he was very much about form and in a way, like the idea of taking something, looking at it just for what it is without necessarily meaning behind it. And yet he has like these word sculptures, his poems, right? As a narrative, which of course none of those are included. It's interesting. It would be interesting to see how those word sculptures, quote unquote, would be different from what someone else might call a poem, or the thoughts too that he has while people are talking about his art and the commentary and what makes the difference, for example, between a plus sign and a crucifix.
That's close up.
Yes, Oh, I thought it's a great book.
Mm.
I would read a book like this. It has so much,
And
you know. Yes, I took an art history a long time ago, and I like a book that has facts about a topic. It also has a story about whatever, whether it's a love, whether it's a, like I said, you know, I okay, when I was at university, when I mine were, I used to read history. Now the only thing I could absorb as history is historical fiction, but it really inspired me to take. I have I have a book called by Gombrich, History of Art. I took it out and I looked at minimalism, and it gets me to learn more about what they're talking about, what kind of art, body work, you know, and you know, each time that somebody came in, even Picasso, the other one before said they're no good, you know, and this is happening all the time. But I really thought probably you could send me the book by this author. I've never heard of this author. I'm glad to have this. You know, me, I like the part about witches and oracles. Now, you know, in some cultures, there were oracles that they belonged, you know, that people belonged, and well, were they true? The fact that Anita was coming here, well, I guess he imagined it to the point where it was so bad for him that he had to stop work for 4 years. And yes, about the women, they had similar experiences in a different time. And the fact that this Raquel Cuban felt she was inferior, and I think, you know, especially these girls, you know, made her feel inferior. And this Nick, this wealthy woman, man, decided to mold her the way in, you know, he starved her and the parents, and she had to be. She was in the two worlds from her background, and she went into the wealthy one, and and now I knew right away that it was going to end. She was going to realize that he's not for her. In the end, what I like about it, that somebody said about, if somebody is inferior, they feel good inside themselves. And that's what happened. Raquel understood that she's good about herself, and the fact that she finally met this Belinda Kim, who believed in her. And I liked the fact when, in the end, even Jack Temple talked to her to ask her to talk about this. She insisted that she wants to get something about Anita de Monte. Well, maybe sometimes in university you have to push somebody what kind of thesis, and you have to find an advisor. But what really, like the last, now Anita, of course, decided she's going to help Raquel, and she put a page and she helped her to get her. The last line, Anita says, "Oh, I'm so happy. My babies are out. And now, you know what? I don't know, Raquel, she's okay. Maybe I'll send her a mouse." I thought that's hilarious. There was humor. There was so much in this book. Really great book.
I agree with you, Carol. I was just going to say that there is so, even listening to you, Katie, you brought a different perspective to it also that I didn't realize, but now when I think back, I realize it's a type of book that should be read more than once. I really, really think so. Just to get everything out of it. There's so many things going on at the same time. It's definitely like I would like to reread it again after listening to what everybody's saying. It was a very, very so much in there, and it's hard with one reading. I thought it was brilliantly written. I really do. I thought she covered so many different bases, so many facets of life, and it was really it was a lot. It was a lot to take in one reading, I find.
I find it interesting to be reading this or to have read this in the context of like a few books ago, we looked at Horse, right? So in Horse, we have again sort of not parallel timelines, but in a like we have Jarrett, slave Jarrett, right? His timeline throughout the Civil War. And then we have and I forget his name already, in our main timeline. His name won't come to me, but we see how things are playing out similarly. Like in a way, they're like mirror images of each other, of the two characters. And we have that again here in Anita de Monte Laughs Last, except that um I admit to being really frustrated with Raquel for a lot of it, and her poor decision making. It was very frustrating to me that that she kept allowing herself to
Yes,
be coerced sort of against her better judgment. But I also really appreciate the commentary there in that sometimes the dominant voice and the dominant culture seems so overarching and like it's something that you can't actually fight against. I found her twist that does come about to happen really suddenly and really quickly, and I'm glad that she stuck to it. But that part was a little bit. I might have, if I were editing, then I might have asked for a little bit more explanation there. But
Well, you mean because she admitted that he was so controlling and so bad for her. All of a sudden, you mean
it
it
was
came
that
too
she
fast?
kept kind of
Yeah,
allowing herself, and this
yeah,
is like,
that's
so
true. I agree
coming
with you.
again from a white woman's perspective and a youngish white woman, like I think probably Xochitl Gonzalez and I are similar-ish in age. I think she might have a couple of years on me, but this also mirrors some of her experiences at Brown University. Um, of being like one of the few brown faces basically on campus, of going from a public high school to an Ivy League experience, looking at that dominant culture and seeing how like wanting to be accepted and to fit in, but at the same time that argument also that she has with her professor towards the end of the book, where she says, why am I spouting the same thing that everyone else is spouting? It's like this is not rote. This is not the purpose of higher education, really. It's to actually bring more to the conversation, which I agree with. Um, but also something that I really liked about the book was again, which I found a surprise, was in that conversation with her professor, who he kind of rails against. It's like, oh, but he was acquitted, so everything's fine. And also, biography doesn't matter. That's his line, right? We've been hearing throughout. When she confronts him with that, she says, but you talk about a little bit about Gauguin, you talk a little bit about Lausanne, you talk a little bit about these other things. He says, but only if they're relevant. And it's like, but they are. So,
Yeah,
and instead of doubling down, instead of him doubling down, which I think
he,
would be
he agreed.
more realistic, honestly.
He
Like I think
agreed
most
with her. He
people
gave
do
in.
double down. He actually takes it in. And he
That's
says,
exactly, yeah.
which I found surprising. And also, like, whereas in Horse, we have the, like, in terms of racist sort of dominance in North America, right? And thinking at the end of the book, you kind of think like, but really what's changed? In this one, even though uh, there are lots of parallels, there shows change in the willingness of dominant voices as well to actually listen to another perspective, which I have a tendency to think that feels more fictional, but I like the idea.
Yeah.
Like to me, that's the fairy tale-y
Came in
type
too
part of
easily.
it.
I found that too. Yeah.
But
That
but I
bothered, yeah.
really appreciated that that was there. And also like even like these like we have these parallels again, like between Jack's character and Nick's. Um, Nick is a little bit more pathetic, right? He's coming from this wealthy background, this wealthy, privileged background, whereas Jack was coming from working class. I liked the inclusion of male voices in it as well, even though this kind of again harkens back to a different discussion that we had about A Spark of Light, which was again like why include a male narrative in like this particularly female-centered, like why is it that we feel this need or this desire to have like some feedback there as well? And she brings it up, Xochitl Gonzalez brings it up as well early-ish in the book when it's Anita's first big show, just before she's fully met Jack, I think. And the panel discussion is from men talking about women's work, and it's like white men talking about women of color's work as well. It's interesting that we have this, again, it's a priority in terms of, again, valuing and raising up certain voices.
I
And there
thought it
also
very.
was like another
Oh,
storyline. I'm sorry, I'll just for 1 second. Nick's mother and sister and their relationship and the sort of like the stereotyping of his mother, like that's another whole line, that you could delve into. That's what I found. There were so many different things. You could have walked down so many paths in this book with what
Yeah,
she was trying to
I
talk
feel like I
about.
feel like Nick's mother is kind of the ultimate Karen. Like
Yeah,
her
exactly.
name's
So
Linda,
yeah,
but
yeah.
she's very much like
With
that
the daughter, and yeah,
the
that's
kind
a
of
whole other thing. That's
yeah.
the life he came from, as opposed to the life Raquel came, and Raquel's mother turned out to be gay, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But like
That's
too,
why.
it's an interesting like the ways that the characters are drawn um is not completely unsympathetic, right? Like even Linda, Nick's mother, like we can see why, and I think we could all feel why people who are privileged want to maintain that privilege, right? They want to
Yeah,
keep their perks, of course, like everyone wants to keep all of the good things that they have. And um, the idea that someone else coming up in that, again, like the idea that Raquel should be grateful to be being welcomed into this world. Like Anita should have been grateful for having been included as the like Jack's arm candy, basically, even though he disparaged her work, even though he referred to her as his girlfriend, his wife, as opposed to as an artist in her own right, which is kind of how they had come together in the first place. This idea of erasure, I think, comes through a lot. Um, Carol, you had brought up earlier with the hair cutting scene. So that was also, I feel like one of the reasons why that was so important was because a lot of her identity was wrapped up in her hair. It's a little Samson Delilah, I know, but a lot of her also ethnic identity was wrapped up in her hair. Like he,
long
encouraged
curly
her to
hair.
always wear her hair tightly tied back in a chignon, and to he was like, "Oh, your hair's in my face. Oh, it's your and it's this wild, messy hair." There was a Barbara Streisand movie. Was it in The Way We Were? Was it The Way We Were, where it was like
She
Katie
ironed
with
her
the
hair.
crazy hair?
She ironed it. She
Yeah.
ironed it.
But this was part of that was this idea of like hair representing this untamable nature, this it, very different from what was considered acceptable and like keep in your little package, stay in your lane, this idea.
Mhm.
And be grateful for being welcomed into here. Like this is
Right.
extended in through the novel here. So Raquel is not Cuban American. Raquel is Puerto Rican American. I believe that's where her roots are. And it's Anita who's Cuban. And so while they come from different places, though, they both have similar experiences of trying to reconcile their cultures, their loud, untamable, non-Western sort of cultures, and fitting that into the American acceptance of especially upper middle class or upper
And whose
class
family was
white
more
culture.
dysfunctional, Raquel's or Nick's? You know, like they're each of
Oh,
their family.
easily, Nix.
It was
But
like
it depends on
welcome to
how
the
it's presented, right? And the whole time too,
And
like,
I have just
go ahead, Roseanne.
I've just got one thing
Oh.
to add. The part that was interesting to me,
Mhm.
and nobody's mentioned it, is the scene with the girls who made her beg for that the fact that she was not worthy of being in her position. And I
Mhm.
think that's today's world. Today's world, that is what we're seeing. The immigrants are taking over. The the colleges are being taken over, and this is what's happening. They're trying to keep the white part, the whatever French part or whatever. They're doing it today. They're people are coming in to the. That's what they're saying. I'm not saying but the point is that this is what Trump. That's what his followers are trying to stop. That people are taking that people like Raquel are getting into positions that the people who should be in the positions, according to you, and you said the ones of privilege, they want, but no, they have to have a black person in there. They have to have a Cuban, and it's the problem today's world, and yet this is in the '90s, and we know that it's still today.
Well, this is this idea, right, that then someone is an affirmative action hire as
That's right.
opposed to being qualified. Um, and this is challenging, especially considering the degree of nepotism that exists in society as it is, right?
Well, no,
Like,
but they're talking about the Chinese immigrants, the people at LaSalle College. I mean, these are places that the Chinese students, because I knew friends who took in Chinese students who came to go to LaSalle College. They
mhm.
wanted to learn whatever it is that LaSalle does, and it's cheaper and it's whatever. But
The what?
Oh, she got frozen.
Oh,
She got frozen. Yeah, this is part of the discussion. It's true that that scene we should talk about a little bit. That was a hard scene to read. This I when the art history girls basically force Raquel to admit that she's an affirmative action hire at RSID,
right.
or RISD, or anyway, at the museum, that she didn't earn her spot. This idea that it's only because of the color of her skin, and that's the only way that she could have beat out. So I think it was Claire who had also applied for a position and didn't make it. This
And she
idea
agreed
that,
with
and
her, right?
because of again this degree of entitlement of like, but I should get in because I'm white, I'm rich, right? And it's like the same as with, and look at my background where like my mother does this in art and my father does. It's like, why? It should have been me. How could this nobody have gotten in over me? It must be because of this other reason, as opposed to like Nick. Then we have Nick's character who he gets into the galleries that he gets into, his pieces get purchased.
Right.
He gets the representation that he gets all because of who his mother knows, not because his work stands on its own and speaks for itself. And so we have these two ideas of like, oh, Raquel actually we see throughout the book, or like this is the way that she's painted, or from uh Xochitl Gonzalez's narrative is like she worked hard and earned all of these things,
second
and yet
piece.
people see her as being given it because she's brown and she's from a public school and she's an affirmative action hire. Whereas Nick, because he's coming at it from the dominant perspective, no one's like, oh, you're being handed these things because of your parents. They're like, oh, he is a great artist. Oh, he is. And part of that also is because
Yeah.
um his message or his artistic message, which he doesn't truly have, right? Fits into again the dominant narrative. It's another spin on the history is written by the victors, right? It's like, but what are the other voices saying about what actually happened?
Mm.
If you're on the board of directors,
After reading this book, I wanted to read a first one. I just wanted to say that when I finish this book, I very much want to read the first one
I
because
will tell
I
you,
think
I had a really hard time after I finished this one, not immediately taking because we have a book club kit for Olga Dies Dreaming, and I was like, oh, maybe that'll be our next book. I was like,
Oh God,
nope,
yes,
no.
I
no,
agree
we've got
with
to
you.
go
I've
into different.
loved it. Won a prize. The first book won a prize, I think.
I think so
Oh,
too.
it won a prize. Supposed to be excellent.
It was talked about a lot, and like I said, I haven't read it, so I can't speak to it. But I felt like our last few books kind of flowed one into the other. Like we did Horse, and then we did The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and
You
then
going?
this one. And sorry, what was that, Addie?
Nothing, nothing.
Oh, okay. And so I haven't read The Spoon Stealer yet, but oh, for those of you who are watching us online, I will tell you because we're getting towards the end too. We had a little pre-talk before we started recording, but our next book is going to be Leslie Cruz, The Spoon Stealer, and it will be on October 14th, I think.
Yes, you said
Yes,
so.
that's what
It will
she
be on
said.
October 14th. But so I haven't read The Spoon Stealer yet, but I believe that narrative will be a bit of a departure from our last few books. Um, yeah, this is it's it's interesting to I think we can't help, or I can't help anyway, but when we read these books, when we talk about them, to be sort of looking at them in relation to the books that we've looked at before. And in a way, like with our group, we're a group of so far, like I think in the past few years, we've had one man come into our group a couple of times. Um, we're of a certain sort of political disposition, and in a way, we're a little bit of an echo chamber as well. Thank you, Roseanne, for not allowing us to stay in our echo chamber.
Funny.
But
Nobody agreed with me,
I
so that's
know
good.
that's why I like it. That's why one of the reasons why I love that you're in the group because it adds, I think, it adds a lot to have these different perspectives of where we're
Of
coming
course.
from. Um,
Yeah, but I would have liked somebody say, actually, that's true. Somebody at least to say I'm not crazy. But see,
well,
I don't.
But you know what I think, Roseanne? I don't think this was the type of book to read so quickly. Like, you said you were, which I do very often. You're somewhere and you have to read a book and you read it. I don't think I don't think this was that kind of a book that you can read quickly. And
I
I think
only
it
read
was
the
a
last
more,
50 pages quickly because I was at the hospital. But no, you're right.
but
But
even
I
what
do
I'm
all my books
saying,
like that. Because
yeah,
you know,
but sometimes you can. But this book, I think, I can understand how you feel because I think it was a much slower read than that. I understand what you're saying, but I think this book was just too heavy, like too much to read it so quickly. I think so anyway.
okay, I know. I'm just saying it was like, okay, let's see, let's have a gay person. Okay, that's checked off. Oh, let's have a gay. Oh, another. Oh, yeah, let's have a parent who get. Okay, checked off. Let's have a murder. Okay, checked off. To me, that's what she was doing. She just kept adding and adding and adding, and I don't find that you know
Hmm.
I don't
see,
I
and
find.
I guess from my perspective, the inclusion of gay characters did not feel tokenized at all. Um, the murder part, again, because it's inspired by something that actually happened, even if it hadn't, it's also, like, I was a little surprised that she didn't keep us on the hook about whether Anita fell or was pushed
Right.
or jumped. Um, because, oh, one sec, Rona. Rona, you're breaking up a little bit. I'm going to ask you to
There's no
repeat
doubt in
yourself
my
in a minute,
mind, and
but
why he got acquitted, I was very upset by that.
yeah, it was an inch.
Okay, now?
Now you're okay. Your picture is frozen, but I can hear you clearly. Can you repeat what you had said?
I was not happy that he was acquitted. I really was not happy that he was acquitted. I felt that that's how I feel. I feel he should have been found guilty. I feel he was definitely guilty. And
O.J.
it was sort of like
Simpson.
sloughed. He was acquitted.
O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson. We lived through it.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
right.
lived
I'm
through
not
it.
saying
and
right.
the actual inspiration, right? The inspiration, the Ana Mendietta's
Yeah, he
husband,
was
Carl,
acquitted.
was also acquitted. And
Yeah,
he
I
was
guess
also
I was
acquitted through a judge-only trial.
Yeah, yeah, I know it happens, but this, I don't know. This was a book. I wanted all the loose ends to be tied up nicely. That's how I feel. I don't know. But anyway,
Yeah.
Anyway, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Carol.
Okay, I have to leave. Now because I have another appointment. I'm going to say one more thing about this book. In the end, Anita, in her death, after her death, Raquel manages to get a retrospective of her, an exhibition of her works. So in the end, Anita de Monte lost. Thank you very much.
Okay,
yeah,
just a minute.
exactly.
Who does the
Okay.
drawings? I want to know
Okay,
behind your
I'll see
wall
you
are
next
paintings. Did
week.
you make them?
Okay, great.
I want
Okay,
to know if
great.
she made those paintings in the back of her in the back of her
Okay,
on the wall.
I'll
Oh,
keep the recording on. Okay, great.
okay. Carol,
Oh, one more
just
thing. Oh,
Carol,
sorry.
just before you leave, Roseanne's wondering if those paintings were done by you behind you.
Oh,
Pardon? Me?
Yeah, Roseanne's wondering if those are by you, the paintings behind you.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Sorry.
The paintings that are on your wall?
Oh, the picture. Oh, wow. That's yes, my late husband got it years and years ago. It's a
oh,
really interesting one about some people are playing instruments. I don't know who the artist is, and one of our favorite paintings. I've had it for years and years and years.
Okay.
Yes, you're asking about it. That's interesting. Oh,
Thank you,
yeah.
Carol. You have a great rest of your day.
Okay. Oh, could you give me the other book by Gonzalez? You
Oh,
said
yes.
I want to
Yes.
read it. Yeah. Okay.
I'll have a look. Okay. Take care. Bye, Carol.
Bye. Okay.
bye.
All right. So we agree to disagree to some degree, as we usually do with our books that we look at.
Anyway, it was again another interesting book, Katie.
I'm
Katie,
glad.
I just want, I don't know that. I'm sorry, are you finished recording?
I will finish the recording now. We'll say
Okay,
that
okay.
our time for discussion is over for today, and we look forward to seeing all of you again in October.